Good morning YouTube, and welcome back to the channel and Project E46 M3. I know a few of the regular subscribers have been wanting to see some action from the old girl. So in today's video we are hopefully going to fix the gearbox issue. Now for those eagle-eyed who watched the flyby videos from when we took the E46 to Mexico, unfortunately towards the end of the video I was pumping through the gears in S6, which for those that don't know is the fastest shifting setting, and it was just holding back. It didn't feel like it was in S6, and I was like, something's not right here. So I shouted to Matt, said we need to get going. I think the SMG's about to die. It really feels slow on the upshift. So got in the car, set back to his, and then the light of doom appeared on the dash literally 2 minutes after I started realizing there was an issue. So limped it back home, cleaned it, put it away for winter, sort of forgot about it, knew I had a load of other jobs to be getting on with. So I thought, you know what, I need to investigate this further, and I put it up on Instagram. I thought it was the SMG pump, and a lot of good subscribers to the channel, those on Instagram, thanks for those that follow me and gave the input as well, said check the Detent springs, which are about 100,000 miles, they snap, it struggles with high speed shifting, it's a really cheap part. Like the parts from BMW were £10, which I was like, this can't be the right bit, but we'll go into in a minute what they actually are, which is embarrassing for actually how much they are. But essentially today we're visiting Tom at Spartan Automotive, which is just outside of Fleet Hook if I remember correctly, following the sat nav. So we're going to head there now, got about a 35-minute drive to him, and fingers crossed he's going to be able to change these Detent springs. And I'm sure most of you watch the channel will say, well James, you do all your own stuff, why aren't you doing it yourself? Well, you've got to jack the car up, you've got to take the prop shaft out, you've got to lower the gearbox, because these Detent springs are right on the side of the box, which hopefully we'll be able to show you in today's video. So what else is happening with Project E46 M3? Well, essentially I'm off to Anglesey next weekend. I am super excited to get this on track, a proper track. And as I say, not that the Nürburgring's not a racetrack, but it is a toll road per se, so it's going to be a dedicated track day. It looks absolutely beautiful. In normal Welsh fashion, it looks like it's going to be raining, even though today around here it's absolutely beautiful, but we'll see what happens in a week's time. So had a few jobs to do on the car. Firstly, starter motor. I'd noticed that it started to get to the point where when you tried to crank the car, you just hear the relay click, nothing would happen. On off 5 or 6 times, eventually it started getting to the point where it's 7 or 8 times, and I thought, you know what, it's not like a manual car. I haven't got the option to put it in second gear and bump start it. With the SMG, if the starter motor fails, game over. So made the decision to do that, and I'll throw in now some clips of the starter motor being changed. Now the tricky part with the starter motor is the 2 bolts that you need to get to are actually here round the back, so you can go under the coolant hoses and try and do it that way using that E14 socket, and then once you crack them off, the 10mm ratchet spanner will undo them. Now I'm fortunate enough that I had this off a couple of weeks ago when I was actually looking to see if I could fix the issue with the starter motor. So hopefully with a bit of copper slip I put in there, mine should come out nice and easily, but they are a squeeze. And just be careful with these old brittle coolant lines, because obviously these are now coming up to 20 years old. Now, as mentioned on camera, it looked pretty easy to remove these 2 bolts, and the reason for that is, like I mentioned, I had it out before and copper greased everything. With the 2 bolts out, you should now be able to wiggle the starter motor out of place. It may be a little bit tight, might need a little pry bar just in the gap there, but it will come out eventually off those dowels. So overall, not a horrific job. Truth be told, I did actually remove it end of last year to just see if it was an issue with the contacts, but it didn't really help. Maybe a little bit better. So like I say, in this video it was a lot more straightforward for me because I'd already copper greased the bolts and they all came out pretty easy, because there's not a lot of room between that bulkhead and the starter motor on the back of the gearbox. Some say you can do it from the bottom. I did it from the top. Looking at it, I wouldn't want to entertain doing it from the bottom, even on a ramp. I thought the top end was fine. The only benefit I had with the SMG car with the CSL airbox is I didn't have to worry about removing the SMG reservoir, which might be an issue for those that have got a standard airbox. Another job to tick off the list is going to be the Powerflex solid engine mounts. I've seen these first on Driftworks channel when he was doing his E30 V8 M3 race car, and I thought they look pretty good. My old mounts are now done 92,000 miles to my knowledge. They're original, so probably well past it. And I'll overlay a clip now of how much movement there is on the stock block when you blip the car. So the benefit of uprated engine mounts, potentially better drive, less wear on exhaust manifolds and stuff where the flexes are, because obviously you've got less movement from the engine to the body of the car. The payoff, bit of noise, vibration through the car, humming potentially. Sometimes the dash can rattle, but the thing I liked with the Powerflex mounts is they are adjustable. So they have these little slider pins, which I'll talk about later on in the video, so you can reduce the harshness and soften it up if need be. So super excited to get them on. Also got to do the access to the rear damper controls. Now on the Öhlins coilovers that I've got fitted, they come with this little rod that goes outside the boot liner, but I find it really fiddly to adjust and you lose a lot of the feel. So the plan is to take a hole saw, open it up slightly and just make sure that I can access that dial nice and easy, because at Anglesey I really want to have a play with the suspension and see what it's all about and get the car working absolutely perfectly. Finally, the big question before I leave the video and we get to Spartan: tyres. So I've bought a brand new set of Michelin 4S's to go on the car, and I've got them on the E92. Brilliant dry tyre, exceptional wet tyre, especially in a rear wheel drive car like this if it does rain. I've got the Super Sports on at the moment. They've got enough life, I reckon, to do the track day. The issue is if it rains there, which is highly likely in Wales, it could really ruin the day. So I'm on a point where day before we go, if it looks like it's going to be dry, I'll burn the Super Sports off on track. If it's going to rain, we'll get the Michelins fitted, so that I say I can absolutely utilise the car as best as possible for the conditions. So yeah, stay with us, and like I say, we should be with Spartan in about 25 minutes and on the ramp to get the Detent springs changed. So as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, this was a job I wasn't looking to do on the floor. As you've got to lift down the exhaust system, remove the prop shaft, all the heat shields, it's one of those jobs you've just got to accept sometimes that yes, I could do it on the floor. Would I be happy with crawling around on my back with crap in my eyes for hours? Definitely not. So certainly glad I visited Tom to do this. And as you can see, I had the pleasure of standing around most of the day admiring someone else work, which I must say is a nice feeling. Now I did give him a hand with the exhaust. Well, I say give him a hand, just sort of controlled the jack as we lowered it down. And much to the disappointment, both detent springs had no damage to them. So obviously as we had the replacements, these were fitted, and then it was a case of putting everything back together and treating it to some new exhaust gaskets as well. So with the engine mount removed, you can now see the standard item that was removed from the car. The rubber's very perished, corrosion to the bottom, but the main difference is going to be when you're actually driving the car. Now Tom is going to show me the difference between the standard mount here. As I say, the weight on the engine causes them to compress. So we've got 66 millimeters on the old one and 72 on the new one. So you can clearly see the engine mount is passed. And today we're going to be fitting the new Powerflex adjustable uprated unit, which I've discussed earlier in the video. So what's included in the kit? Well, we've got two uprated Powerflex mounts, new nuts and bolts with a suitable grease, which I assume is going to be for the pins, which we'll look at in a second. The covers that are going to go over where the pins are inserted, and finally, as I've referred to, the pins themselves. So these actually go in to the engine mount, and you can adjust the stiffness, which is really cool. So I'm hoping for a road setting, this is going to be a little bit firmer than brand new standard ones. And then, like I say, if you wanted to go hardcore, track it, you could put 2 pins in, you could put 4 pins in, literally by lifting what looks like a little foreskin back off of the engine mount itself whilst in situ. So super keen to get these fitted. Like I say, my mounts now have done 93,000 miles, so they're certainly going to be worn, and I'll overlay a clip now of a few blips with the car just in neutral on idle, so there's no load on the engine, so it's going to be much more noticeable when you're driving. And hopefully now I can overlay a clip of what the engine mounts look like fitted, and as hopefully you can see, a big improvement. And like I say, this will transfer, especially when driving, into a real direct feel from the gearbox. The payoff is going to be vibration in the car, but like I say, because it's not a daily driver, it is a weekend toy. It's something I'm willing to sacrifice. So it's been a long day with Tom at Spartan Automotive on the E46 M3. So we have removed the Detent springs. Unfortunately, they're not broken. So the problem continues. But on the flip side, Tom suggested doing the genuine BMW adaptions. We've gone through everything, the system's run all the checks and it's come back absolutely fine. We've just gone out and done 15-minute road tests with it in S6, all fine. So the springs needed to be done because they fail at 100,000 miles typically, so I'm glad it's out of the way. But unfortunately, it's still a bit of an unknown. So tomorrow morning, I'm going to go for a good run, take the car out and see if I can get it to replicate that issue. On the good news, he did fit the Powerflex uprated engine mounts for me, which a big thanks to Tom for that, because I was going to struggle on the driveway tomorrow, getting crap in my eye for the day. So really pleased. Been, like I say, on a little test drive with him. First impressions really good, but when I leave Tom today, I'll do a review on the road and obviously one in the morning for you guys. But now we'll hand it over to Tom to go through Spartan Automotive. So as mentioned, the E46 M3 is ready to go home. But before we leave, we've got to appreciate some of the work that Tom's been doing. So Tom, do you want to run us through what's happening with this build? It's obviously fooled me because I initially thought it was an M3, which it's not. Do explain.
So yeah, on the face of it, it looks like an E92 M3, but it's actually a 335. It's got all the M3 body kit on it, along with a few other bits and pieces, which you'll notice under here. Again, looks familiar to your car. It is actually an E92 M3 rear end that we're fitting into this 335. So we've got a brand new, fully rebuilt diff from Dara Everything M3. Shout out to him for
we know Darragh, for those who have watched the channel, he did the diff on the E46 M3. So Tom works with Darragh as well on projects like this, which is cool to see.
So more of his great work here. And the subframe we've had shot blasted and powder coated in a bright yellow. All new Powerflex bushes throughout. We've got the hard race arms. The hubs are currently at the vapor blasters. So hopefully we'll get those back next week and we can start refitting this back up and get some brakes on it and get some wheels on it and get it on the deck.
Very, very cool indeed. And like I say, we'll unbox those brakes now. Now Mark, the owner, actually popped down today and showed us some of the glorious parts that Tom's going to be fitting over the coming weeks ready for his Euro track day. And like I say, I'll add his Instagram as well in the description if you want to see more of Tom's work on this machine. So I certainly won't be playing with it on my E92 M3 because I think by the time this is on the road, it's going to be a very, very capable car. So that wraps up the video at Spartan Automotive today. And now again, passing you back over to Tom. As you can see, an up and coming CSL replica in the making. He's seen mine today. He's watched the videos previously. I'm going to put a link in the description to his Instagram and his YouTube channel, but I'll leave it with Tom to do a brief breakdown and the full picture of his car.
Yeah, so ironically, I'm sort of starting the journey that you've been on. Obviously being a BMW enthusiast and absolutely loving the E46 platform. For me, the CSL is one of the greatest cars of all time, and I was lucky enough to lay my hands on a silver grey M3 a few years back. So this is hasn't had much love in the last few years. Been very busy with things at Spartan, but
work in progress.
Yeah, work in progress. Desperately trying to find time to get it done. So essentially, it'll be a similar build to yours. Obviously, going down the CSL rep look with the SSDD bumper. I bit the bullet and bought a genuine CSL boot lid, steering wheel, and a few other bits and pieces. There's a little bit of rust on the car, so that's going to be addressed. And I'm planning on doing a full underside restoration using the WeldTech RACP brace and plate kit. I think that's one of the best on the market. So we're going to be doing that along with powder coating all the suspension components, new bushes, along with a few other goodies as well, which I won't give too much away, but there'll be...
Yeah. Check out your channel.
Yeah, so check out the YouTube channel for updates.
And we'll do a quick walk around now of the car. And like I say, tune in because, like I say, Tom's going to be enduring the same pain that I've gone through. But it's always a pleasure working with people that are also enthusiasts with what they do. And like I say, as you've seen here today in the workshop and the cars outside, he is an M3 #1 fanboy. Until next time, guys, thanks for watching. So as mentioned, Tom's got his work ahead of him this year. Unfortunately, E46s are at that age where rust is becoming a problem, but I'm sure it's in the right hands. And Tom, like I say, has done a good job already with getting the progress underway with the bumper. He's got the CS steering wheel in here. Look at that interior, spotless. So the car has been cared for, but unfortunately in the UK, we're just not blessed with salt-free roads, so it does do the damage. And for those that watch the channel will know this is why I do not take mine out. But I'm looking forward to seeing how Tom progresses with it. And like I say, do check out the channel if you want to see more from his car.